This is the first big meeting we're seeing between big tech CEOs and President Biden. What do you imagine will be discussed at this summit, and what do you think the outcome is going to be?
Well, Emily, thanks for having me. I think the last time we talked was before the pandemic. I can assure you any summit is going to be more interesting than the last My Pillow summit on security. But jokes aside, I think this is serious. It's really good to see the Biden administration and their appointees like Jen Easterly, who's the director of cybersecurity and infrastructure, and people who are advising her, Ted Schlein here in the Silicon Valley. I met her before while she was going through her confirmation. She's execution oriented, she's smart, and she's really trying to build a partnership with the private sector, many of the CEOs and others. And this, if you look at the spate of these attacks, we have to take this seriously, just like terrorism. I mean, right now it's just economic money, but when you talk about operational systems, there could be lives impacted in the future.
That's a pretty dramatic statement there, that this is just like terror. I mean, what do you think these CEOs need to convey to the administration when clearly there are other priorities at the moment, like evacuating tens of thousands of people from Afghanistan?
Well, that obviously is very important. That is more important than anything else because of all that's going on. Hopefully we'll get through that, the Afghanistan part, in the next couple of days and weeks. But cybersecurity, I mean, in the 1980s, there was an incident in India where I grew up. Union Carbide had a spill in Bhopal where thousands of people died. And, you know, quite frankly, if this were to hit a nuclear plant or someplace else where there's chemical effects, this will be live. And we have to take these nation-state actors seriously. And the question really to me is, how are we going to respond when it's Russia or China or Iran, North Korea? We have to develop a retaliatory response and be bold about how we do this. We also have to make sure that there's ways by which there isn't victim shaming. There isn't ways by which there's a safe harbor for companies to be able to come forward, work with the FBI and CIA. And this is the one thing that I also want to see happen, where when ransomware happens, today there's insurance that covers the payment of the things. I really want to see companies refuse to pay and the FBI, CIA go after these folks and recover that money. And this requires all of these big tech giants. There's a few others I would have named, also Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, that are good security companies coming together in a coalition. And there's several steps that they can tangibly take.
Meantime, obviously, we're seeing work shifting dramatically as well, and more work going remote, more data going to the cloud, more companies relying on the cloud, hence this threat of cyber attacks getting bigger and bigger. You know, where do you see this shift in work and productivity going? How do you see this as an inflection point for potentially how we work for decades to come?
Well, I think, listen, there's an inevitable move to the cloud. If you look at the three big cloud players that announced last month, Amazon, Azure, Google, collectively, they represent about $100 billion of revenue run rate, growing 37%. So increasingly, I do believe that security, when moved to the cloud, is better than a lot of other smaller companies who may not have the technology wherewithal to be able to do security. And the government clearly has been a leader. When you think about FedRAMP and some of the federal processes that allow the government to have a secure cloud. JEDI was one example of that. They're investing in FedRAMP, moderate, high impact levels, secret, top secret. So my belief is that increasingly the cloud will be a secure place, whether it's in this government or other governments. The other aspect is hybrid work. You know, last year during the pandemic, I set myself a goal to try and talk to 1,000 chief security officers because I figured I could schedule 30 minutes with them. I didn't get quite 1,000. I did 700, 800, but I can assure you that would have been impossible in a physical world where I was traveling to various different countries. Zoom made this incredibly easy and possible. So I think hybrid work is here to stay. There will be some combination of work and visit in person, but I do think that our productivity is enormous. And with that comes a whole new spate. And the way to think about this is zero trust. You cannot trust anything, and the whole security industry is moving to this notion of zero trust, which I think is the way of the future.